A huge shout out to the overthinkers.
An overthinker. He watches the show.
To the overthinkers, shout out Buffet too.
All about faith to this is Parker, yeah. Thank you, overthinkers.
Keep inspiring the next generation.
Shout out to the overthinkers. Thando kuphela. Much love.
To my overthinkers, mamela ubuchopho ngeke buphume buyakhula nizinja nikhokho yazini as overthink siya overachieve.
I'm stealing that. I've stolen that one. I've stolen it.
Welcome everybody to the Overthinking Football Show. My name is Mokwena. I am your host, and this is the place where we speak football. We're going to speak a lot about what's happening in our football. Usually, we're speaking about African. Kevin, already. Usually, we're speaking about African football and what happens in Africa. But because we've got the Euros and it's the finals this weekend, and it's going to be the last time I have a show like this where we can speak about this, we have an England versus Spain final preview. Now, if it's the first time here, even though they say I'm pre-recorded again, they say I'm pre-recorded, but it's fine. If it's your first time here, this is a very interactive show, so I expect you guys to jump in. Let's have a conversation about what's going to be happening over here on the weekend, and we can speak about that. Then, if you want to jump in, there's a button at the bottom of the screen that will appear when I say it that says multi-guest. Click on that button, request, jump in, and let's have a conversation. Let me see. King B, welcome to the pre-recorded show. How's it crazy tea? Agent, we'll speak about that another day, but we've got big fish to fry today. Okay, so guys, today we're going to speak about the England versus Spain preview. We're going to speak about that final. We're going to speak about how we felt about the Euro tournament, some surprises that happened, some good players, all of that stuff. We're going to speak about it on the show, so please feel free to jump in. As you know, England versus Spain is going to be the final. They're playing on Sunday. England is a team that nobody expected to get there. No one at the beginning of the tournament all the way through didn't think that England could do what they needed to do to get to the final, but we forget that England itself reached the final last time. They've reached the quarterfinals of the last four major tournaments. They've got two finals in their last four quarterfinals of a World Cup, and they've done incredibly well under Gareth Southgate outside of winning a trophy. So that's the English team. The Spanish team is led by a guy in Lamine Yamal, who's not even allowed to work past 8 o'clock. If he's on the field past 8 o'clock, there's a fine that is paid by Spain in order to keep him on the pitch. So that is a very interesting part. Him, along with Nico Williams, have been some standout players over there. Pedro, of course, got injured and he wasn't able to carry on. But guys, feel free to request. Do me, I saw your request. Guys, for some reason, you guys are being told that it's pre-recorded for some reason. For some reason, they don't believe that I'm reading comments right now. So guys, feel free to jump in. Let's have a conversation about these Euros and what we are seeing from the Euros. While I figure out, what's the TikTok and his... I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening with this. But anyway, Agent, welcome to the show, my brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Agent, I don't know anything TikTok, but yeah. Anyway, tell me, what are your general thoughts about the Euros 2024 tournament?
If disappointment was a tournament, it would be this Euros. The big guns didn't come to the party.
Yeah.
The big players didn't come to the party. The big coaches didn't come to the party. You know, we could say that it was a tournament of underdogs, but even the underdogs are not performing that well. Except what else played well? Turkey, the Swiss,
Austria, your
Spain,
team.
Yeah, I think those are the four teams that generally played well.
Okay.
But otherwise, it was a boring tournament, to be honest with you, and way below expectation. 4 or 5 out of 10, 4.5 out of 10 for me.
4.5. Hey, some people will say you're being nice. Look, for me, I think I expected a lot more. And honestly, it comes from the conversations we have. You know, when you speak about football, they tell you about Europe, For Europe, we see the football, that side, the tactics. Hey, we're going to watch some incredible football. It'll be tactical. Yeah, Agent, your favorite word, tactical. It'll be all of those things. But we ended up watching maybe a dullish tournament. Were you surprised by this final, Spain and England?
To be fair, I didn't expect any of them to be here. Spain, I think I underestimated them.
Yeah.
It is generally my team, but I haven't had any hope for Spain ever since, the World Cup here in Spain, in South Africa, So it has been one of those teams where you feel like they'll be there, they'll play nice, but round of 16 quarterfinals, they'll get knocked out, And even the coach, I don't know much about him, So I'm quite surprised by the, how can I put it, by the way they're playing. And even if you look at the players that are there, they're not household names, except maybe David Raya and Laporte,
Yeah, Nacho
Navas,
maybe.
but otherwise they're not household names. Yes, I get your Lamal and everybody, but they've just come out the last 12 months. They're not yet household names, So I'm quite impressed by him. He's been playing good football. I think he's one of the coaches who are saying, I have been able to implement a philosophy in the national team,
Yeah.
And then with England, unpredictable as ever, I made a controversial statement some months back when I said the difference between the Champions and Southgate is Mbappe,
Yeah.
I don't think I was far off. I don't think it was as controversial as I thought it was at the time, because at the end of the day, France have won the World Cup and have won Euro. People will look at that and say, but what more do you want, So I find it somehow that we don't want to give credit to Southgate, but they've been in and around finals, semi-finals, so maybe we have to give the same credit that we give to the champions. Let's say we win, let's say they win it, it's the same power as maybe the champions, because for me, there's not much difference, but again, I don't know if I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the sheer willing power to get over the line, despite whatever you want, or despite whatever circumstances you are facing by the players. And even the tactical ingenious of Southgate that you don't understand, the substitutions have been spot on, whether they come by divine calling or by divine whatever, but his substitutions have been spot on, so he deserves credit also, And one last honorable mention before you go to the final is Portugal and Martinez. How do you justify OT getting a coach that ruined the golden generation of
Belgium
in bringing in? Now again, there's still the big elephant in the room with Portugal and Ronaldo. The last coach had the skill, to take him out and bench him in the World Cup. It worked one game, the other game didn't work out, he got fired.
Yeah.
So that's a hot potato that Portugal has to deal with, and I heard him saying he wants to be the next World Cup. So I don't know if the next generation will be destroyed by this elephant in the room and the useless Martinez. I don't know. Yeah.
I before I get into that one, let me just jump in on the England and Spain thing. I think we're watching two teams that are the opposite of each other, essentially. So we're watching one team that has up and coming stars. It's a relatively low celebrity status team, right? They're not a team that everybody was looking to, and we know the names like that, and we have high expectations of them. So I think that allowed the coach, who also we didn't know much about, that allowed him to actually put his footprint on the game, on the team, to actually have them play a style of football. What's been lacking at the Euros for me is that the smaller teams have the style of play, they have the attractive football, they just don't have the quality that can get them over the line, right? That has been one of the things that we've seen at the Euros. Whereas the bigger teams have all of the quality you can think of, but like Agent is saying, there isn't enough the coaches don't have enough balls to go in and say, you know what, guys, this is how we're going to play now. Ronaldo, I'm going to get rid of you because you're getting in the way of my other players, or whatever it is. Mbappe, I can't allow you to run around freely. You have to start playing as a teammate, not necessarily as the star. You know, all of that type of stuff. Whereas England has been purely a team that got here by the sheer will of their stars. Right? Somebody pops up to save England every single time. Whether it be Jude Bellingham, whether it be Saka with a late goal, whether it be Ollie Watkins in the game versus Netherlands, where they were able to win that game 2-1. It's always someone who's going to pop up and pull them through. And again, it's two teams that are on different they're on different sides of the spectrum when you look at them. And I think that's what makes this final really interesting. You've got one team that has been super consistent, got to the final, played the best football, scored the goals. Hey, they did everything you could do, right? And then you have another team who are Shem. Kabas Pumule, as Rulani says, until somebody gets the ball and takes us through. So I think that's why the final is interesting. But I want us to just take a step back, Agent.
But on that, if you look at the teams that England have been facing, generally they've been either teams that are of lower quality and recently teams that are better quality but no style of play, like the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So now you're facing a good team that has good play. So do you think they can, with just sheer luck, like they've been doing, can they get over the line with that? You know, considering that you're facing a team that scores goals, a team that knows how to play, and a team that knows how to defend. You know, and a well-rounded, organized team.
I think for me, now when I look at it, I feel like England can maybe get something from the game. And what I mean by that is as good as Spain plays, as great as they are, I'd imagine that a lot of them are a little bit underexperienced up to this level. So if you can close down one or two of those players, they will struggle a little bit. And England then, of course, again, they just have the luck of the draw. But what has killed England most of the time, and up to this point in finals, has been you can't rely on that when you get to the finals. Usually they're playing an out-of-this-world team. So I'm not sure. I think it's a lot more, I don't want to say evenly matched, but I think England could steal something, though the expectation is that Spain is going to win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think they are evenly balanced in that sense that, you know, maybe for once Southgate will be able to play his preferred boring football, you know, because everyone is expecting an attack and he can sit back and he can come on the counter, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe in that sense, and also the pressure, I think, yes, from the English side, that delusional is always, but from the rest of the world, we see Spain as favorite. So maybe when that favorite tag is not there, then maybe we'll say different, relaxed, boring side, the English side, which can do wonders. Yeah, so I do agree with you. Yeah.
So then, Agent, let's just speak a little bit about the matches that we saw. What are your thoughts about Spain versus France? Because again, France, for all of its quality, they had no play. They've got no style of play. They've got no way to score. They don't know how to bring Mbappe into the game. They don't know how to do all of those things. But they did manage to get a goal early, and Spain had to come from behind. What did you think about that game, Spain and France?
I think we need to speak about Colum Wani first. I think he's the French Mvala, you know, if I can put it that way. He's always in good positions at the critical time, but somehow he always misses, you know. But anyways, for the life of me, I don't get how you play well in the first game using double pivot.
Yeah.
And for some weird reason, you switch to a triple pivot. I don't know how in the life of me, you have the best defensive midfielder, at least in this current generation, or if not the second behind Casemiro only. You put him as you are taking a midfielder. Like, for the life of me, I don't get it. Like, I would never get it, you know. And again, as a team, yes, plan A is to rely on Mbappe's individual brilliance. But what is plan B? You know, what happens when Mbappe is not on form, or when Mbappe gets injured? Because I think that injury did affect him, because I think he was a bit cautious. You know, he wasn't as aggressive and quick as he is, you know, because I think he was afraid of the face being, you know, whatever. So for the life of me, I don't get those two substitutions, you know. And again, if you recall some years back, there used to be a conversation about Benzema and what is this guy, Giroud.
Yeah.
Giroud won the conversation not because he was a good goal scorer, but he was able to make France play. You know, same with what is this guy's name, Pogba. You know. So why going to this tournament? You prefer other players, Thuram and others, you know, Colomwani ahead of Giroud, you know? You're tried and tested. Why are you not using him? You know, that's another question mark, you know? And again, you have Kamavinga on your bench, you know, arguably the best 8, I can put it that way. And he has that ability to come back and come a full back. So you have such a dynamic player, and you play a Rabiot. No disrespect to the Rabiot, but what is Rabiot offering you, you know? Now, again, I think the main thing was the Pogba magic, you know, and I think Mbappe did mention it also. How long can you rely on one player? You know, is it another case of Spain? Is it Spain or Germany, where the golden generation is led to die out, you know, without proper replacement? So all this time, you didn't have a proper replacement for Pogba. Why? You know? And by now, as a coach, you should know your team that it looks like I'm lacking a creative player. You know? So what do? You must look for that creative player, you know? I don't know who it is, because I'm looking at the bench. There's no one who can play that Pogba role, but I'm sure the French are resourced team that can find someone who can play that role, you know? So I think we lack a creative midfielder. And lastly, on the French, you are relying on wing play. So if you are relying on wing play in terms of speed, in terms of Dembele or Griezmann and Mbappe on the other side, surely you must have a target man. So if you don't have a target man and you're playing wing play, it doesn't make sense. You know? So I don't know. It was just wrong tactics, wrong personnel, wrong everything. You know, that's why I call him the French Southgate.
I think what's interesting about the French, for me, again, it's main character syndrome. I think a lot of the players have a main character syndrome, and if you don't have a coach who can control that and force them to play a certain way, you're going to see something. And what's interesting about a lot of these European teams, Agent, I don't know if you noticed, a lot of them have a similar way of playing, the ones that have been struggling, especially up front. So you'll always find there's one wide player, there's one striker who's usually not necessarily a striker or good that side, but then you'll have on the other wing the person cutting inside. And I watched that and I thought to myself, what is the point of the type of game that they're going to play here? You know that, as you're saying, Colomwani is not a finisher. You know that Thuram is not that good of a finisher in the team. You want to play Griezmann in the 10 and then have Mbappe, Dembele or whoever up front, right? But then you have nobody who can make them play. There's no deep lying playmaker to take advantage of the pace of Mbappe, the pace of a Dembele, for example. Then on top of that, like you said, you play Rabiot, and Rabiot, he just wants to run on the wing and hide. But you take your best you take your best destroyer, and now N'Golo Kante is playing 10. Sometimes I'm not sure if they're trying to be too smart for their own good. You know, they're trying to reinvent the wheel. Maybe it's so, you see about Pep being spoken about the way they get spoken about because they're always trying things. But, you know, the conversation we had, like, for example, with Steve Kompela, at what point do you say, Mara guys, whatever I've been experimenting with right now is not working. Let's revert to something old since we have the guys that are sitting right there. So it's a very interesting conversation, France. And I think it applies to England. I think it applies to Portugal. It applies to a lot of the teams where in their experimentation, they become a lot more predictable, if that makes sense. And I want to ask you that question.
What I found weird again on PSL is they were doing a typical PSL thing where you don't have a striker. You put in on the target man, you don't put in crosses.
Yeah.
The target man goes out, you put in crosses.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have short players, you're putting in crosses. What is the use? You know, that's why sometimes I feel like maybe there's something that is happening in that Camp A and you have a pro license that you don't get, you know, as layman, you know, because we thought it's a PSL thing, but we're seeing it at such a global level.
Yeah.
It is concerning, you know, and again, we always talk of in PSL of you know how to defend. You have plans of how to defend, but what you don't have plans and patterns of how to score. You know.
Yeah.
If you look at the French, I don't know how many goals they scored on open play, if not one or two. You know.
Yeah.
So again, it's a similar problem that we face in PSL. Maybe it's a global problem that it looks like we don't have patterns of how to score. You know, how to create chances at the bare minimum. You know, because I don't think besides Belgium and Lukaku, we haven't seen so much big chances missed, you know, because there's been no chances. Yeah.
Guys, feel free to jump in. Guys. Bottom of the screen, there's a multi-guest button there. Do you think that it's overcoaching, or do you think that these coaches are under pressure to try and be special? Like, for example, if you look at Gareth Southgate, I still believe that Gareth Southgate wants to play boring football. I still believe that he would much rather do a 4-4-2 and just play wing play, crossing balls. But now he has to figure out where these players, Bob Foden, Bob Bellingham, where they go. Do you think that these coaches are under pressure to try and come up with something new? Is it a modern football thing now that you have to change everything and come up with new stuff? You know, what do you think is causing this predictability or boringness?
The first fault is that too much star power, you know. I think, you know, we used to have teams so you know that, hey, there's Messi, you know, and after that there's Maria, and then there's others, you know. So now you find that we have so many so-called superstars that are almost at the same level, you know, and that creates a problem, you know. If you watched United under Ragnick, you'll be led to believe that Ragnick is not a good coach, but look at him at Austria, you know, because of lesser known guys, you know. So I think it's too much star power. And again, you look at the star power and say, is it star power or is it artificial star power in terms of the media and the PR around it, you know? I also start to divide a bit of the next Pele, you know, in Brazil. 2 touches, one from kickoff and one, I don't know where he made it, you know, but he's called the next Pele, you know? So I think there's that, you know, and yes, you've seen individual brilliance from England players, but do you have players, you know, like Prime Ronaldo, Prime Messi, who can drive the game by the scruff of the neck? There's lack of those, you know, so I think we have too much artificial superstars. And then the second thing, like I was saying, is the Pep effect, you know. Look at English. Everybody's criticizing Southgate, but who is in the final? You know, who's the most successful English coach in recent memory, you know? Like, put all the statistics here, most wins, most everything, you know, he's the best, but somehow you're not satisfied, you know? It goes back again to local, we always talk about that not every team should be a Sundowns, not every team should be, you know, a Pirates, you know? Have your own style of play, have a way to win, have a way to score, have a way to defend. That's all we want, you know, just have a plan, you know? So I think is the Pep effect. Everyone wants to seem smart, everyone wants to seem glorified, everyone wants to play like Pep, you know, but there's only one Pep, you know. And again, it's always what I always say, that Pep does something for a reason, you know.
Yeah.
He switches from a false nine to a striker for a reason. Well, now you're switching from more striker to false striker because Pep does it, you know. But we never asked why is Pep doing it, you know. Like building from the back, why are you building from the back, you know? If there's space behind the defense, why are you building from the back? Why not go to one, you know? So I feel like it is the artificial sense of entertainment or Pep-like wannabes that is also killing football, you know. I won't say Pep is killing football, I'll say it's the Pep wannabes that are killing football. Yeah.
And that's very, look, it goes hand in hand with what we spoke about a couple of weeks ago when we spoke about the systemization of football, right? So, for example, I've often said here that I've always said here that our players, our new coaches are more coaches that love control, right? They want to control everything. So you can't control everything when you've got a Zlatan on the pitch. You can't control everything when you've got a Cristiano, when you've got all those people who are good enough to want to go do their own thing, but also have warranted that because they score and do all of that stuff. One of Pep's first moves when he started coaching Barcelona was to get rid of Deco, was to get rid of Ronaldinho, so that he could implement his system with players that weren't going to be ego-driven and bigger than him. But what has happened in football after that is that the misinterpretation is, okay, instead of me taking a team of 8s and 9s rated out of 10 and making it work, I will take 7s and 6.5s. And those guys, I know they'll listen completely to me. And I'll build out this intricate system that doesn't work elsewhere. Guys, there's a reason why Foden is not working elsewhere. Or he tried to, Shem, in the last game, but there's a reason why we're not seeing a prime Foden. Why? Because he's out of his system. But I think the biggest reason for me is that, again, the coaches don't have balls enough to say, guys, I'm going to take some people and put them on the bench. You know what, guys, as much as all of you deserve to play and you're all superstars and you're all, one is a La Liga winner, the other is a La Liga player of the year, the other is the Premier League player of the year, the other is England's top goal scorer ever, the other played in a team that finished second in the league, other one played in a team that finished second in the league. I don't need all of you on the pitch because you're not compatible. But can I have the balls enough to stand there and bench people? Can I sit there and take out a Kane, take out a Bellingham? Bellingham played King, I believe it was the whole game. Bellingham played, for example. Do you have balls enough to do that? And are you big enough to do it? Because I feel like at national level right now, what's missing, and again, from the pepification of football, Pep is the biggest ego. Pep is the biggest person at Manchester City. Whether you're KDB, whether you're Haaland, Cancelo, whoever you think you are, Pep is the guy. He's the last word. But with these other big national teams, if we look at your Englands and we look at your even Spain to a degree and France, the media is bigger, the fans are bigger, your record during the season is bigger, and now the national team coach doesn't have the control that they should have. How do you feel about that, Agent?
But to be fair, you know, I'm a coach's lover. Let me be fair to them. That there's a very thin line between bravery and stupidity, you know. And sometimes you don't even know if you've crossed it or not. Now, the issue is you try such kind of move and it works, they're hailed as a hero. You try it doesn't work, it's your head gone. You know? So I feel like they've seen exactly what happened with why am I forgetting his coach? This
Which one?
The old guy. I'm forgetting his name. You know, yeah.
The Portugal coach. Oh, Bruno. Come on, no, not Bruno. Something. I forgot his name. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. You know, he took a chance. It worked once for Portugal. The second time it didn't work out, and they lost not because they were horrible. They lost because the team can lose. You know, in football you win, lose or draw. You know, and in cup tournament, is win or lose, So it didn't work and he was gone, because this is superstar that he didn't start in. So why did he start it? Even if you refer to say, but I played well without him, but we actually won. People are gonna say, but he's the greatest player of all time, So it's the same vein that a Southgate is in, that already I'm under pressure. So if you start Kane and I lose, people are gonna say, but we have the greatest English goal scorer here,
Yeah.
And then people say again, you bench, Mbappe, it's like he's the greatest French player, behind only Thierry Henry, maybe, so there's a risk to it, so I feel like the coach has just been too cautious about it and trying to play a safe hand and risking it.
Would you say, before I go to Debza, very quickly, would you say, Agent, that if, let's say, Zidane was coach of France, do they have the same issues?
No. Because, like you're saying with Pep, unless you are Messi or unless you are better than Messi, and who's better than Messi? Ronaldo, arguably. So unless you are Messi, Pep Guardiola is bigger than you. So if you have a player like Zuzu there in the French team, because he has a lot of credit in the bank as a player and as a coach, people are more willing to trust decision making. That even if it doesn't work, he's given the benefit of the doubt. And that's why maybe I'm a bit disappointed with the French coach, because he has a lot of credit in the bank. So he can afford to make these kind of substitutions. But again, like I said, better safe than sorry for those coaches. That's the thinking.
Let me bring in Debza. Debza, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, OT. How are you?
I'm good. Debza, I'm going to throw you straight in. What's the cause of this very cautious football that we're seeing at the Euros? What is it? What is it that's making us see less chances, less pound-for-pound games, less high scores, ditare? What is it?
No, problem over coaches are not letting players to express themselves.
Okay.
The highly talented players are being restricted. You understand? You look at Spain. Look at how the coach is letting the young ones on the wing do their job, express themselves, show what they're made of. Most of the people didn't know the boy Williams. We knew Yamal because he's from Barca, but we've been following football. We know Williams. Even at club football, he's not this good. But then now, because I think he got the support from the coach that he must go out there and cause havoc. That's why we see those two players expressing themselves, how they're expressing themselves. You look at the Brazil of all times.
Oh, the Samba boys.
Who went there and expressed themselves. No restrictions whatsoever. We tend to forget that club football and international football are two totally different things. You cannot create a system at national level because you don't have that time to create it. You understand? So you are there relying on purely talent, especially attack-wise. Yes, as Carlo Ancelotti used to say, he says he only sets up his team on how to defend. But when it comes to attack, he believes in his players to create something up front.
Yeah.
To just get a match of who can play with who can be compatible with who. But otherwise, let the players play and analyze the game.
So then, Debza, just to be, let me be devil's advocate. I'm a coach. I want to set these boys free, but there's so much on the line. I'd much rather come out and play a 3-4-2-1 that we all know is a back five with two pivots they're getting 6. You saw France go even 3. Chouameni on top of Kamavinga on top of Kante.
Hey, bro.
Isn't it safer for them to just protect their jobs? Don't do anything crazy because, you know, if I play my 5-4-1, I lose the game, it's okay.
Hey, the thing is, when you have a federation that knows football, they would understand you. It's also down to your federation, your country federation. Or do they know football? They must see what you are trying to do. How was your team playing? You understand? So if you are playing good football and you didn't win, maybe your team were missing chances and all that, then you were knocked out. It's not your fault. But then when you are defensive and you are compromising your attacking players, your attacking players didn't have more chances. You understand? We didn't see the best of your players. Then we're going to look at you and say, you couldn't unlock them. You understand? So that is why I'm saying we should look at the federation or now. When you look at France, we don't mind or 5 come round, as long as you're going to make your forwards to be effective. You understand? So it all goes down to that. How are you getting the best of your attackers?
Okay.
You can play 5, and then Odaleka 3 up front. They are so skillful and they understand each other. They're making 2 steps and they're crossing over, and then you win games. We will applaud you because of you. Maybe you can give a reason. I don't have a Pogba who can dictate the game. Therefore, I'm changing my system because of I don't have a particular player that I can utilize more. Therefore, it depends solely on my country, and then maybe and then we can see where it's working. But then if it's not working, why are you constantly using it?
Yeah.
Change.
Okay. Let me go to Montana. Stay on tapes. I'm gonna come back. Montana, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, OT, and you?
Hi, man. Montana. Tell me, what is causing this boring football that we're watching? There's no chances created. The teams look very cautious, man. They're scared to do anything. What causes that, in your opinion?
OT, first of all, if you look at these international coaches that are coaching these countries, you will find that they don't have a track record of winning anything. They never coach at club levels. Almost all of them. I will start with Southgate. Martinez of Portugal, he failed at Fulham, if I'm not mistaken.
At Everton too. Everton and Wigan, I think it was.
Everton. This champ for France, he never even coached at club level. I will go on. That's the first thing. I think it's the weakest link. And the secondly, in any country, if you go back, you go to South America countries, North America countries, even in Europe, the countries that have won the World Cups, the countries that have won the Euros, you must have a team that is dominating in that league, and that team must have an identity. I will go to Germany. If you remember, the last time Germany won a World Cup, I think they whooped Brazil by 8-1.
7-1
in the semi-finals.
Yeah.
At that time, Bayern Munich was dominating in Germany.
Yes. That's true.
You go to Brazil. When Brazil won the World Cup, those players were playing, I think none of them was playing in England. Because at that time, England were the players that were playing there were robots. They didn't allow the Brazilian samba, all those things. Because football nowadays is playing on tactics more than the talent. You can have a talent, but the coach will tell you about the tactics. I want to play on that zone. What? If you go back to Brazil in 2002, most of those players were playing in Italy and Spain, which is both those countries, they suit the Brazilian style or South American style. Because and you will go back to other countries and you find England is always at the back of the pile. You know why OT the England has been in the finals? You know why? Not because they are good,
Yeah.
but because the players in those countries now are more playing the English style. They lost their identity. In Brazil, for example, you will find 8 players that are playing in England. Those players back then wouldn't even make a bench back then when we knew the real Brazilian. Look now at which Italy. The football there, the AC Milan, your Inter Milan, the football there has declined.
Yeah.
Those are the best teams. That's why now you find out they've been knocked early in the tournament because the big teams are suffering. And it kills the sense of style. And you're gonna take a coach who doesn't have a track record, and you let him to coach your country because it start there. When you are a coach, when you pick players on the international stage, you pick them based on their strength because you know you don't have time to instill your system on international level because the time is too little there. You don't have enough time to that's why you have to choose your best players on the international level. I remember I remember Scolari on 2002 World Cup. He was asked by a journalist. He said, I think all of you guys remember this, or you heard or you read something like this. He said, when he saw Ronaldo, he saw Cafu, he saw Roberto Carlos, he saw Ronaldinho. It didn't have even something to say to those guys. He just said, guys, go there and enjoy themselves. Because those players knew and the level of football that they had at that time. They didn't need the instructions from the coach. I find to not understand when we have players that are performing on club level, but they seem to fail on international stage. Those are not good players. Those are overrated players. If you are a good player, OT, you can play in any team. You can play in any system. You can play in any position.
So then, Montana, I just want to ask you on that point. Mara, isn't that what football is becoming now? That these players, for lack of a better word, are robots. They go out there, the coach tells them what to do. They can't think for themselves. They can't problem solve. Isn't it a problem in football? Because when I think about it, there's only a few, man, of those players that are left.
that's where our beautiful game is going. Okay, we might as well in maybe in 2050, maybe our kids will watch robots playing football. There's something that is happening on our faith race. I think it's going there into football because there's too much tactics in football now, unnecessary tactics. You see, the players are being told what to do, where to, you must be there in what time, in those things that I think we're overdoing it. And the more times go on, every coach wants to be tactical,
Yeah.
which is at the same time is killing our football.
Okay.
Football, we enjoy football. Even
Yeah.
there were no FA license for what UIF don't, because the coaches they were using the talent that the players have. The players were playing on their strength. Now, even if we can dribble 10 players, the coach is gonna tell you, no, you don't have to dribble. Just pass the ball. You are a team player. We have 11 here.
Montana, for time,
That's what
I'm
is
gonna
happening even here in Africa.
I'm gonna come back.
We are-
Before I let Tabang in, I just want to say there's been some breaking news. Around 13, 14 minutes ago, Orlando Pirates announced that Prasten has passed on. Stanley Screamer Shabalala has passed on. So RIP to Prasten, guys. RIP to Prasten. We got into a little bit of a situation. There was a hijacking attempt, if I'm not mistaken, and he was injured in that whole thing. And he hasn't been right since that whole time. Very little was told to us, but now Pirates has confirmed that Prasten has passed on. RIP to Prasten. Rest in peace. We all know the legend. We all know what he has done in South African football. So RIP. Tabang, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, OT, how's it, man? Thank you for allowing me to join the panel.
No stress. Welcome to the family. I'm throwing you into the deep end.
Okay.
What causes this type of football that we're watching at the Euros? We're watching teams that are afraid to play at times. We're watching teams that maybe tactically they're not all there. What is causing the thing that we're seeing at the Euros? And maybe you can start off by just sending condolences to Prasten and his family.
Yeah, man. I don't really know much about Prasten because I'm a millennial. So I think I've seen the shows. I've seen the Orlando Pirates shows. It's clear like he had a huge impact in South African football, as well as grooming some of the legends that we have today. So yeah, man, I really hoped that I could see or get more content of him and the stories that he told, because that man had a lot of knowledge about South African football. So I just hope that his legend lives on, man, and the stories never die, and we should never just forget about it.
Okay.
Yeah. With regards to like how the teams are playing, okay. So first of all, I think Montana hit the nail on the head when he said that there's a lot of or the coaches that are selected don't have like a good track record. I think they just selected based off how they used to play for the national team, and maybe like I think they're just the best people from those countries to coach the teams. Yeah, and with regards to like the players that they also have, I think they have players that don't complement the style of play that they're trying to implement, or they try to instill tactics in which are not good or allow the players to express themselves. And also another point that I just trying to I want to make is I think it's important to have players that have that connection or have played together before, rather than just having players or getting the best players. Because when you base your selection off that, you get like egos, because we have like these big players coming together from big clubs, and some think they're better than others. So, and they're just trying to prove a point to each other and the nation, which somewhere somehow impacts the game and how they play. Being a footballer myself, I think it's crucial to have connections to or with the players that you're playing with. You understand? So if you have good connections and you get along with the players that you're playing with, it becomes better on the field, and it even shows in the results. I think South Africa with Hugo Bruce coming in, it just kind of shows that that if you select good players from a good team, a lot of them, the whole team just performs better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because also if you see with France.
But I want to ask you. I want to ask you. You look at Gareth Southgate. This is his eighth year in charge of England. You look at Didier Deschamps at France. He's been with he's won a World Cup. What is it that makes them maybe not feel as though they have the authority to do some of the things that you guys are speaking about with the picking of players and all of that stuff? And can we allow them to get away with it?
I think for England, it comes down to the selection or the pool of players in which they select from. I don't think they have enough players to pick from. If you check the England league, I think most of the players that are playing there are all players from other countries. There was a stat that they revealed in one of the shows that I watched. I think it's Football Today or something like that plays on 2-3.
Okay.
There was a time where there was only like 66 players in the lineups for that week. You can imagine now if it's the whole 38-week league. Yeah, you get like you don't have a good or enough pool to be able to select like players.
Tabang is still with me. It seems like
and also with France, there's not a lot of players playing in that league.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still with you now.
Oh, okay. No, I thought you were cutting there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll come back.
So
I'll come back.
with Didier Deschamps,
no, finish.
I think
finish,
Paul
finish,
Pogba,
yeah.
Paul Pogba, like really helped them.
No, go on.
Okay. So with how they're playing, they didn't have like a player to control the midfield for them, which didn't allow them to get enough supply to the forward players. If you check Adrian Rabiot, if you check Golo Kante, if you check Chumeni, those are not good ball players going forward. So I feel like the link from midfield to the forwards wasn't as good as it used to be in the previous tournaments. Yeah, for sure. Wherever Didier Deschamps is crying over the fact that Pogba is banned, and there isn't a replacement to get in there and fill in those big shoes that he left.
Okay. I'm gonna come back, Tabak. Let me go to Ntozake. Ntozake, I'm throwing you into the deep end. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, my brother?
Hey, angikho mnandi ngale ndaba kaPrasden, but it's okay. What's causing this boring football we're watching at the Euros, according to you? What is the biggest issue affecting why we're not seeing very good football there? And maybe you can give us some condolences to Prasden, who just has been announced as having passed on.
Yeah, let's start with bad news. May all of the legend rest in eternal peace, He has contributed so much for South African football, even for Bafana, spotting the talent. I don't think there's ever been a South African that can spot a talent like Prasten. He can say all the things that we said about him managing Pirates and stuff, because you cannot go against the wishes of Dr. Irvin. So if Khoza trusted him so much with his team, then it means he was so good.
Yeah.
You know, being with him off Orlando Pirates stage for about 20 years. It shows that the guy had something good going on, and you could see Ule show yake sitting with +10 on how much he contributed to South African football. And a lot of players can learn a lot from him to stay advised and always being a student of the game. He still rest in peace.
Hey.
Yeah, and then when it comes to Euros, you know, Prauti, there's only one thing, which I think affects the Euros, especially European football. You know, media has a lot of influence in terms of how we view European football.
Yeah.
You know, Champions League, EPL especially, and then the Euros. They control the narrative to a point that when we look at the Euros, we see a special project amongst all projects. And then once something has been demonstrated as the most special thing on the universe, everyone is going to expect the special project on the TV. And the media is playing a huge role to put the pressure on the players, on the teams that are participating there, because it's being advertised as the most beautiful project that you could ever see in football.
Yeah.
We cannot doubt the quality, but now the advertisement, it's like it's the best thing that can ever happen, which is not true. That is why we find ourselves saying this team are playing, but we are saying it's boring. But actually, if you look at the context of football, it's not boring. It's just that it has been overhyped to a point that we expect so much from people who are not giving so much, who are giving everything that everyone else is giving.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at England especially, I'll just base my argument on England. I believe for one that England were not so poor as it is being discussed on media. And they are so poor, they're a team that is so pathetic that they reach the final as if, they rigged the result or they bought the referees. It's like they were a very poor team throughout the whole tournament, from the first game to the last game. Yes, looking at the stage of the tournament, we're expecting so much from them. But were they so poor to a point, England football will demonstrate their bet.
Yeah.
Because the way England, even the panelists, the Sky Sports, your page, everything, those media from England, they were busy bashing the players, bashing the coach, but forgetting what these players are achieving. Now, if I may ask you, the calendar of these players is over-congested. When did they rest so that they can give you their 100%? Because there's Champions League, there is EPL, which is so demanding. Or whichever league they are playing at, it's so demanding.
There's
and
the
if you're
cup
going to
games
choose the players from the teams that are performing week in, week out, who are participating in all these competitions, then you are bound to have such results or to have such kind of display from those players, because these are human beings at the end of the day. So where are they going to give you 100% if they always play demanding games? So those are some of the factors that we are ignoring. These players were not even given a month, 2 weeks to rest before going to camp. They were in camp before even the season. Just when the season ended, they went straight to camps, and then it was intensive camps. Then camps, it's an intensive competition. When are you expecting them to give you 100%? We must come back to that perspective. Okay.
Okay, guys. Before I go to agent, please follow, guys. If you have not followed, please follow. Like I said, again, RIP to Prasten. It was announced now. He succumbed to injuries this afternoon in hospital. So RIP to the legend. Rest in peace. yeah, no, we all know Prasten and what he did for Pirates, what he did for Sundowns, what he did for Bafana. It's well documented and well documented. Well, yeah, Prasten. Anyway, Agent, my brother, I'm gonna come back to you. I see that you're back on. So I want to ask you two things before we get into the actual preview. Number one, how do you feel about people saying that teams are afraid to lose, and that is why they're playing it safe? And then number two, can we let coaches go when we say that they had no alternative? So, for example, we spoke about Paul Pogba not being there with France. Gareth Southgate spoke about Kimang not having a Calvin Phillips, for example. Surely, as a national team coach, there's a lot of players at your disposal, or are we being a little bit harsh on their selections there? And maybe you can give some condolences there to the legend Prasten.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, eh? It's a very, very difficult one, you know. There are very rare people who we can see, or we can put them in the same breath as Braskir Mashabalala, you know. There are very few, you know, because he's a legend for 3 of the biggest teams, you know. And he funded Chiefs. He treated a monster in Sundowns, you know. You know, he's a Paris legend, you know. Where in the world, where in South Africa can you attribute a person to 3 of the biggest teams in the country?
And the national team on top of that.
Yeah. You're saying?
I'm saying, and the national team on top of that.
And the national team. You know, so that's how larger than life the person is, you know. People don't know that Shushan and Piano that we still play to this day as Sundowns is from him, you know. And it's such tragic news. It's tragic news that, you know, this stewards are passing away, you know. It was the lead Alex Shakwani, now it's him. Yeah, you know, and we will miss his stories, you know. This cricket old man will miss his stories, you know. He will cheat you on one side and console you on the other side. You know? That was him.
Yeah.
You're gonna miss his stories, you know. He was a giant of a man, larger than life. But yeah, back to the tactics. What was the question? I think I got drawn into the emotions of it, you know.
It's two questions. Number one, how do you feel about the statement that these teams are afraid of losing? And we're seeing this type of football because they don't want to risk anything. They just want to play it safe. They just want to basically, it's good enough. And then the second one is the national coaches. Can they still get away with the excuse that I don't have players as a national team coach? Are we letting them get away with a little bit too much there? Or are we taking lightly the job that they have?
You know, they say that cowards die many times before their death. You know, so I'll never buy the excuse that you're afraid of losing, you know. How many times can you take punches before you eventually get knocked down, you know? And even the greatest boxer in Muhammad Ali, you know, has had to succumb to the punches at some point, you know? So you can't keep putting in your head for your head to be attacked and say you're afraid of losing, you know. The more cautious you are, the more you get in trouble, you know. So for me, I just feel like as people making excuses for the coaches, in my opinion, you know. And again, if we look at this, who are the teams which are performing badly? Are the big teams. So are we saying the big teams are afraid of losing? What more of the small teams? You know, and that links well with the next question, that can we say coaches don't have players. It's actually the coaches that have players, that have quality players that are struggling, you know. It's the coaches that don't have the players or the A-listers that are performing well. So that's an invalid point also, you know. And again, onto the task of a manager, yes, we get the job is difficult, you know, as a national team coach, because you see your players, you know, for less than 3 weeks or 4 weeks in a year, you know. So you don't have time to implement your style of play, you don't have time to implement your ideas correctly, you know, you don't have time to do whatever, you know. But again, as a coach, you should be able to circumvent that. You know, you should have your own players that you know, okay, players A, B, C, D, you know. These are my players, you know. That's why I've always been a big advocate that the squad needs to have its own players, not be based on form, you know. Yes, there will always be exceptions like Kodumeno, yes, but still I believe a national team could have its own players, such that, you know, when you have an idea of, okay, Cancelo, I want you to invert. I know he likes inverting, okay, but in the French national team, I don't want you to invert, you know. So because you don't have that luxury to train Cancelo to invent, you talk to him, you know, like, Cancelo, you know, I want to call you for the national team, but please, in your spare time, you know, extra sessions, you know, you have your personal trainers, you have your whatevers, you know, try practice not overlapping, try running and make a lateral runs in terms of instead of cutting back in, you know. So there has to be that proper communication between the players and the coach, you know, to circumvent that lack of time, you know, such that when you guys meet, you try the ideas that you've been asking, you know. It's less theory and more practice, you know. And coaches like Ralph Ragnick, coaches like Bielsa, my goat, have shown that you are able, and even the Spain coach and even the Swiss coach, they've shown that you can coach a national team, you know. So I feel like that's an outdated excuse, you know. But again, even if you don't coach a national team, find a way of winning. Hugo found a way of winning, you know. So without necessarily finding a style of play, you know. So you have to choose your poison and die with it. Either you try and implement a style of play, but that one that needs you to have constant communication with the players, or you decide to win by hook or by crook. And to win by hook or by crook, you must have plans, which are short-term plans that you can implement in a short period of time, you know. And those are basics of football: pumping the ball inside, you know, focusing on set pieces, you know, exactly simple stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Tebza, I'm gonna come to you. Tebza, I'm gonna ask you the two questions. Why teams are? What do you think about this thing? Our teams are afraid of losing, and that is why we're seeing them be more cautious. And then, secondly, can national team coaches keep getting away with this thing of saying, "I'm an Akinadi player"? You know, team players, coaches like what Didier Deschamps, for example, losing a Pogba after so many years of coaching. Anna Pogba Omong, or are we taking it lightly, the job that they do? And maybe we can start off by just passing condolences to Prasten's family, and, you know, speaking a little bit about Prasten or Uskrima Shabalala. Hey, Prasten had two nicknames. There's people who know him as one, and a whole generation knows him as a different name. But anyway.
Yeah, condolences to the Shabalala family and the football fans at large. Yeah, and he's a legend, man. He's a legend. Right now, we read about him, we just hear about him, we never saw him play, you understand? So we just know that he's one of the people who were there when Kaizer Chiefs was formed. He has also played a big part in Mamelodi Sundowns, more especially in the way they play, their style of play. So it means he had a good taste of football. You understand? So he has contributed so much in our football, and we also enjoyed his show there, talking with the legends, telling about the history of our football, where it comes from, what they were doing back then, and we are doing now differently from them. So yeah, it's heartbreaking to be such a legend. You understand? Yeah.
Okay.
So, your first question was
What do you say about
coaches.
this thing? What do you say about this thing about teams being afraid to lose?
It's boring because we used to see that from teams that are less talented. Let me just say that we knew what those teams will be defensive and try to catch the more talented sides on the break and all that. But then we see that now on both teams, the one that you were expecting to dominate the game is not willing to dominate the game.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's frustrating. It's frustrating, to be honest. That's why now we get people saying football is dead, because we're no longer seeing the entertainment. So I don't know what has to happen for that to change, because we've been speaking about it, but it seems to be getting worse at international level, because as you said, coaches are afraid to lose their jobs, but they are getting beaten anyway. What's one? So I don't know who the maybe we will have a discussion again. I'll have a better idea on how they can go about it. But then that's for now. It's frustrating because I don't see any reason for such teams as France, England, you can name Portugal, to be so negative. While you have players who are hungry, who want to go out there and chill. You understand? They want to win from. They have hungry young players who want to make it at an international level, who see themselves as the candidates of Ballon d'Or, because Cristiano and Messi have fallen. You understand? So they see themselves as Ballon d'Or contenders. How are they going to be front runners of that Ballon d'Or if their coaches are playing negative football?
So then tell me.
Happen.
So then tell me, Debs, a secondary question. I want to look at those coaches. I'm hearing a lot of coaches or people making excuses for the national team coaches and saying that, you know, if only they had player Mang or this player or that player, can they get that excuse?
Okay.
No.
It shouldn't be an excuse, because, I mean, how many players did they choose from different leagues and all that? You can create something else without one player. Let's take France, for instance. Why didn't he play one defensive midfielder and 2 8s? And make something. He has Zaire Emery there. We've been talking about that boy. He's a player. Play Zaire Emery and N'Golo Kante. Play them as 2 8s and play Chouameni there. Why are you being so defensive? Do something. You have the players. Do we have to put it out for you? This thing you are already, hey, such player maybe is not ready for. Why are you selecting him? We have Kobe Mainu. For him to play, fans had to complain about Kobe Mainu. You understand? Who can play there and make England tick? If the selection is right, he can make it tick.
Yeah.
You go to Portugal. You have young João Neves, who hasn't seen a game. Maybe played a few minutes there. But you know, the boy is a star, the boy is hungry, the boy wants to play. Yet you come here, you want to make excuses. Yeah, I don't have player A and B. And you have a star player, he's not performing. Yet you keep him on.
And
you have a hungry striker on the bench, who's Gonzalo Ramos. Yeah. A typical example, Maban. You've been saying, well, why isn't only what is coming in and finishing off games? Maybe at 70, 50 minutes. Maybe England wouldn't have played those extra times. And they played those extra times unnecessarily because they have players on the bench who can come on and change the game.
Yeah.
And grab those winners. So they are holding on the so-called big players who are not performing. If they are so-called big players, let them perform. You are a big player because of performance, not by history. If you are a big player by history, then retire. Then we will talk about you in past tense. We're going to judge you on your current performance. Hey, Cristiano is 39. Let's be clear. If he's 39 and he can't deliver what he used to deliver, then it means he must retire.
Yeah.
If he says he's available for the national team, it means he sees himself fit enough to play in that level. So we will judge him based on that level. We will compare him to the young players because he sees himself at their level. So we'll judge you based on that. We will not make any excuse for you because you are now 39. If you feel already, no, I'm 39, I can no longer play at that level. But a coach, coach or no, you know what? Let me come in maybe couple 70, 75 minutes.
Yeah.
When our opponents are tired, maybe I can finish them off. Because you're a senior player about Saba. Talk to your coach. But you want to play 120 minutes, next game 90 minutes. You're not giving anything. So,
Yeah.
this coach is never because of Barapeleta, the big stars, because they're afraid of being bashed.
Okay,
You
okay,
understand?
but
So,
for time, Tebza, I'm gonna go to Montana. Montana, I'm gonna ask you the same two questions. What do you make of this thing of people saying teams are scared? Well, teams are afraid of losing, so they're playing extra safe. And then, secondly, can we let these national team coaches go when they say, "Hi, man, they lost player 1, 2, and 3. Now they have no answers." Can we allow that with the national team coaches? And maybe just start off with some condolences for Prakrima Shabalala and his family. We got word that he has passed on today.
Hey, I just heard this thing of Paston. Hey, man, hey, really young at heart. I enjoy his show at Supersport. I forgot the name of his show there when he had ex-players there telling their stories. I think he's one of the people from football threatening to encourage those or to start the podcast about the ex-players. I think it was one of the people who orchestrated this podcast that we have now, especially football-wise. Ndithi thuthweni bantu bakwa-Streamer Chabalala aluhlanga lungehlanga. Going back to your question, Mr. OT, I think that's that's a lame excuse. When you have when you are a coach, and I believe the national coach is the most less coach in the world because you have luxury of choosing all the players, starting from amateur football to professional football. You have the luxury of choosing any player that you want. So coming to the media and telling, I heard that Southgate said when he said he didn't have Wright Phillips, whereas Phillips is just an average player. I'm not a fan of Manchester United or what, but Mino is much better than that guy. even December, those coaches don't want to lose. That's the first thing. I was surprised when he called Angalo Kante. I was very surprised. I was surprised when he called most of those players. Some of the players that are there. You have Tuchumeni, you have Kamavinga, who just won a double from Real Madrid. Tuchumeni has been instrumental in that double. He's been playing as a number 5, he's playing as a number 6, and you have Kamavinga. Why don't you use those players? Because already they have a winning mentality. Why you putting them on the bench and you're going to come here and say, I didn't have this player, while we have to choose on over 500 or even 1,000 players that are playing? I think that's a lame excuse, Mr. OT. Because you don't need to you don't need to wait for a window period to open when you are a national team coach. You just choose players that you know are going to fit your style of football. And then you know that you're not going to have an excuse. Because you are allowed to choose each and every player that you want. You have everything that is here in front of you. The resources are there. The support is there, especially this champ, because he's a French.
World Cup winner.
It's slightly different when you have maybe a foreign coach. He will come to, there's a culture, and you're not sure about the style of football. But he's a French. Even Southgate, he's an English. But you come with excuses because you don't have Paul Pogba. How many Paul Pogba France have? There are lots of Paul Pogba there.
Okay.
So I think the countries must start to hire the coaches based on what they want. And the personality, I think, is very important when you are not coaching a national team, because you've got egos there. Like what happened on Portugal. I know lots of people are gonna fight with me. Ronaldo was not supposed to be there. Even if he was there, just to support the team, just to encourage the guys, not to play the 120 minutes while we have Jotas sitting on the bench, fresh legs, 120 minutes. Come on. That shows the coach doesn't have guts.
Yeah.
You need to have guts. You need to have balls, Mr. OT, when you are national team coach.
For time, Montana, for time. Let me bring it to Tabang. I'm going to come back because there's one thing I have to ask you guys before I leave, or else I'm going to be killed. Tabang, tell me, I've got the 2 questions for you. What do you think about this idea of teams being afraid of losing, and that is why we're seeing more boring, quote-unquote, football at the Euros? And then secondly, national team coaches keep getting away with this idea that, I didn't have player X, I didn't have player Y, when you've got such a pool to choose from? Or are we minimizing this job that they do?
Okay, so with regards to the first question, I feel like media has a huge impact. So when you're a national team coach, let's say, for example, you're a national team coach for Brazil, there's like 200 million people there, and there's media publications. Imagine, like, I'm trying to imagine what the Brazilian media was writing when Scolari lost 7-1 to Germany in 2014. So you can imagine that pressure. I don't think any coach would want to go through that. So I think media, there's too much pressure on the people or on the coaches from the whole country. So to me, it makes sense to draw than to lose. You understand? There's just too much pressure.
But does it become an issue if all of us are playing to draw or lose, not lose? Because it feels like most of the countries in the Euros were playing that type of football. Does it become an issue when everyone is doing it?
It is an issue to us, the spectators, because we are not able to watch good football. So I think it does have an impact on us, that we're unable to see players do what they do for the clubs on the national team level. Yeah.
Okay. And the second question, can national team coaches keep getting away with these excuses about losing one or two players and everything falling apart?
Okay, can I get an example for that?
Like France, people say France, Paul Pogba wasn't in this team. And if Paul Pogba was in this team, he would have been the key to everything. But then again, you're a national team coach who's got access to every player, or should have. Can they get away with it at a national team level? Or are we minimizing just how much work they have there, or, their jobs?
I don't think we're letting them get away with it. I think with the Pogba example, like there's only one Pogba, guys. I think for me, Pogba is one of the best players for France. So if you don't have him, you can complain and say that, you know what, this had a huge impact, because we all knew how Didier Deschamps relied on him. So I think there are some things that are justifiable, but there are some things that we see that I know this one is just taking us for a ride.
Mara plan B, Nyana. Didier Deschamps has been with France so long. He doesn't have a plan B, plan C.
Now, qualities of the players has an impact on how you play, right? So as much as the coaches set up the tactics, I think 90% is done by the players on the field. So if you have players that don't have a certain quality, like making the team play, like you can go and have a discussion with the teams, like, guys, what's happening on the development level? What's happening on the first team level? Why are we not able to produce good enough players? So to a point that we are unable to fill in the boots that Pogba left. So I think right now France needs to just do a reflection of the players that they are producing. So
Okay.
we just need good players, man. We just need good development, good relationship with the first team coaches of that particular country. Discussing and voicing out the requirements and supporting the first team national team coach to be able to achieve the results that will benefit the country as a whole.
Okay. Let me bring in Ntozake. How do you feel about these two questions? Is it are teams, or how do you feel about people saying teams are afraid of losing? That's why we're seeing this type of football. And then secondly, are we allowing national teams to get away with it, man? When they say, or when we say they don't have a Pogba, so therefore they can't play, or they can't do whatever, or they're missing this player. National team riding, shouldn't they have plan Bs and plan Cs? Or are we taking lightly the job that these coaches do?
Yeah, I think on the first question of this coach not being innovative,
Ntozake, you're cutting. Guys, am I cutting or is it Ntozake? I just want to make sure. Hey, Ntozake.
Or year in, year out.
You were just cutting there. Let's do this. Let's
okay.
do this.
So,
For time, Tozake, jump back on. I'll let you back in. But for time, I need to push a little bit. So jump back on. I'll let you back in. Agent, I need to get into the meat and potatoes of today. We've had a very nice convo about everything else. Tell me, what are your thoughts about this final with England and Spain? And the ultimate question is, who do you think is going to win this?
Oof. Tough one. Let's start with the predictable Southgate. Also unpredictable Southgate. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think I'm not expecting any changes from Southgate side, unless he does a pep where he does something out of the ordinary and changes. But I don't see any changes. I still think he's gonna play back 3, 5-4-2, or whatever the formation is, or 3-5-2-1, whatever you call it. But for me, the match winner on the English side will be Kobe Mino. They need to trust him more. He was the best player yesterday in my books. He was the man of the match in my books yesterday. I don't know how a player that played 10 minutes got the man of the match, but anyways, it's neither here or is it there. So for me, I feel like if they can trust Mino more, I feel like if he can be in the game, I actually see him scoring, tomorrow, because it's such kind of game for him. So I think he'll be the match winner. Again, Saka will be the match winner also on the English side, And we know Bellingham likes the big moments. He likes the photo finishes, So I think those are your 3 winners, And again, which is yet to be determined. Are you gonna start Luke Shaw or are you gonna keep Trippier? That's another interesting decision that Southgate has to make, But otherwise, I still think it's gonna be the same old team. If any changes it is, it's gonna be Trippier for sure, which I feel like will give him a bit more balance, And I would want to see the coordination that I saw yesterday, where Mino goes out wide, like I said, even though it exposes Rice, but that's why you're playing a back 3, You shouldn't be exposed, So Mino going out wide, Saka drifting in. Kane dropping in, Bellingham going up top, and I wish Bellingham can do that more often. Go beyond Kane, be the son of Kane, So he likes going out on the wing. I don't want you out there. I want you on top, And then Foden also dropping in. I know Southgate won't do it, but if I were Southgate, I would tell Kane for once, don't be a playmaker. We don't need you to be a playmaker. Just stay in the box. You know how to finish. You know how to score with your head. You know how to score with your every part of the body that I don't mention. So just finish. Just stay in there. But I know he won't. So it's Kane. Kane's on drop deep again. So Bellingham, it's a job. And even Foden, since you're struggling at least on the wing, get ahead of Kane when you see that Bellingham is hiking that wing. So I feel like they need someone up top. And then with the Spanish, do you start Yamal or you bench him? I think that's the big decision for me. Personally, I'll bench him, because I feel like it would be a great sub to have on than take out, especially in this kind of tight games where you've seen that the English are going to try and take it to the to extra time. So you're going to need that extra creative player, and that once the English start throwing in the kitchen sink, they throw all of it in, they lose shape. So you're going to need a Yamal on and hot when that happens, when there's that distraction. So I would personally start Yamal on the bench, but I don't know if the coach has the big kahunas to do that, But otherwise, I also expect Umar there to start. I felt like they missed him a bit last game. Nico Williams, he almost, and we know Rodri in big games. He's another player that I think will score tomorrow. My scorers are Mino and Rodri. For a weird reason, those are defensive midfielders, but these are the kind of players that show up in this kind of games, you know. Who's gonna win it? I think Spain is too good for the English, eh? And we know the English has, you know. I just hope that we don't see the ugly scenes where the black players, especially Saka and then Mino, they don't get the blame, you know. And I'm just hoping that Saka or Mino get subbed earlier on, you know, before things work out, or they don't make the same mistakes. And I don't know, maybe it's me alone, but Declan was at fault for the goal last game. He lost the ball and the team scored. But have you had any English media talking about it? No. Why? Because
Declan
he's
has
white.
been weird,
You
yeah.
shouldn't shy away from it. So I'm just hoping that your Sakas, your Bellingham, your Manu, they don't make any mistakes, you know. So it is what it is. So I think Spain 2-1. I feel like it's gonna be a tight game. It's not gonna be a walk in the park, but I feel like Spain will have more than enough. And for me, Rodri, Manu are the players that I would put if I was a betting man to score. Anytime goal scorers.
Okay. Dozaki, is the network a little bit better now? Let's check.
Yeah, I think so.
No, okay. So I think I'm gonna let you continue on with the point. We're talking about teams being afraid of losing, and coaches can national coaches get away with the excuse that they couldn't find replacement players or another plan?
Yeah, I think, you know, when it comes to the issue, same problem.
Oh, network. Okay, I think for tonight, unlucky. For time's sake, since I'm in a tight window now, I'm gonna go to Debza. Debza, what do you think about this game that Spain is going to play with England? What are your thoughts, and who are you predicting is going to win?
I'm hoping when Spain does justice to this tournament. We cannot allow England to win this tournament with the way they play. So it's only fair that Spain wins this thing.
Okay.
Because there's no way I couldn't have England. I'm rooting for England, for Spain to win this tournament solely because they were fantastic in this tournament. They were so beautiful. I enjoyed watching Spain. We all wish that Germany and Spain were in the finals because they were the two teams that were playing fantastic. So I'm just hoping that Spain wins this tournament. It's unlucky for Pedri to be injured, even though Danny almost stepping up. But I wished Pedri was there because I like the player. Recently, he's been best for what I don't know compared to other young players.
Pedri abam injara last. Yeah, abam injara last.
Yeah. He's coming off a long-term injury, so you know how people are. They forget easily. They forget how this boy was fantastic in the under-21s and in the national team in the World Cup, and also for Barcelona. Now they're saying, the boy is not better than Bobo Musiala and Bo Vet and all of that. I'm saying, these people have short memory, but then it's okay. He'll come back and he'll prove his worth again. You know, he's a top-class player. So I just hope Spain wins this tournament. They deserve it. Let's be honest, they deserve it.
Okay. Montana, how do you feel about the final? And who are you backing to win?
I'm backing Spain. With Debs that day, I don't want England to win this year. We will sleep outside the whole season. Even this morning, I didn't even watch. Every time I woke up, I watch Sports Sky. And today, I didn't even switch on. I just watched the highlights and then I switched the TV off. The reason I say Spain, I think Spain has been playing a better football compared to other countries.
Okay.
Where they're playing as a team, they don't depend on individuals like England. Because England will come in this Euros, we were thinking Bellingham, Foden, your Sakas were going to explore swings, but they've been hot and cold. Harry Kane, I think Spain doesn't have those individual good players, but they are playing as a team. And you can see in their style of play what they are trying to do. As much part they don't have big stars like they used to. But now you see they are playing as a team, and compared to last Euros, they have improved tremendously. I'm not a fan, but to be fair, they've been playing better compared to other countries.
Okay.
I was hoping Germany. I think Germany also were not bad. A team they've been scoring in this tournament. They were unlucky. That's what I would say, Mr. Oki.
Okay. Let me bring you Tabang. Tabang, what are your thoughts about the final? And who are you backing to win it, and by what score?
Score. Okay, I'm picking Spain. I've always backed Spain since from the first day. Yeah, so with regards to the style of play and how they play, I don't think England players have the quality to match Spain and the quality that they have. So when I'm comparing the midfield, I think every game is dependent on how the midfield plays. So if you check Fabian is a totally different player compared to how he plays for PSG. I think he's very terrible. I think his move to PSG was one of the worst moves for me personally. But when he plays for Spain, I think he just becomes a different animal. With Rodri there, I mean, guys, that's the best defensive midfielder in the world. There's no doubt about that. I think you guys can agree with me when I say that. And I think the edge that the Spain team has is those two young boys playing up front and on the wings. Lamine Yamal, Nico Williams, those boys are just something else. The ability to take on a man and leave him for dead, plus the pace of Williams, is just something else. And I don't think Kylian Trippier has the quality or has the ability to match or to mark him.
Yeah.
Unless if they go with Kyle Walker. But I think Kyle Walker, white ashela. So uzophela naye. You understand? So centrally, I think England is very weak. Playing with Mark Gahey, playing with John Stones. I think John Stones is more of a ball player. Both of them actually are ball players. I don't think they're good markers. So if Spain decides to play and actually attack them and take the game to them, I think they will win it within the 90 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. When I'm checking the quality, England. There is Saka there is Foden, there is Harry Kane. Harry Kane has had a terrible tournament, in my opinion. I don't think there is good midfield players to supply the forward players. So I think they're gonna suffer in that regard.
Okay.
So ball playing, the ball is gonna be with the Spanish team because they have the quality. They are more confident on the ball. Attacks, I think Spain is gonna have the most attacks. And with Daniel Olmo, I think is a wild card. He's a good player to have for the Spain team because he's very unpredictable. Yeah. So yeah, I think they're gonna win it. Spain is gonna take this one within the 90 minutes.
Okay. Heaven. No, guys, thank you so much to you guys for jumping in and talking to me here. Agent, thank you for helping me there in the beginning when TikTok was doing what TikTok was doing. Okay, I just have a couple of thoughts, then I'm going to close. I asked the question about teams being afraid to lose. And I think that is a very important distinction. I don't think teams are afraid to lose per se. I think coaches know that they just need to do the bare minimums to hold their job. So if I can liken it to a person in the PSL, think about, no disrespect to him, but think about a John Maduka. Just enough. Because if you put your neck out and you go loud and you try things and you're experimenting, the moment they go wrong, all of that comes back to bite you. Ask Coach Rulani, who has been announced by We Dad. We'll probably speak about that tomorrow. So a lot of them just stay in the pocket. Now, the people that I am questioning is your Didier Deschamps. I'm questioning your Gareth Southgates. I'm questioning some of the coaches that have been there for a long time. Didier Deschamps has won a World Cup with France. Didier Deschamps has been helping that team for years. Gareth Southgate is in his 8th year. So it can't be that you're going to come into a tournament and you're going to tell me that, no, guys, we're doing the barest of minimums to try to get by. You should have credit by now. You should have the balls to implement such things or change things. If we look at the secondary question I asked there, that was, can national team coaches get away with the excuse that they don't have players? The point I was making with Pogba is that fine, Pogba is Pogba. You cannot find another Pogba. But that doesn't mean you can't plan. So if I'm coaching a club team, I get it. It's a club team. You've got 30 players. Maybe the guy on the bench is not worthy of it. Maybe the guy on the bench is not worthy of you to switch up the team. But in a team that has Champions League winners, in a team that has so many different things, you are telling me that in that country, we cannot find a plan B that could work at a tournament. We have to cry for Pogba. World Cup winning coach who's been with the club for a very long time, who's arguably seen a lot of players come in and out. You're telling me that you can't do it. Look at Southgate. I don't want to speak too much badly about Southgate because my guy, he's got an 84% win and draw ratio. He's the best. He's the second best England manager ever in terms of tournament performance. England has not won a trophy since 1966, so I don't want to go hard on him having the only team in the past 4 major tournaments. He's the only team to get to the quarterfinals of all of them, the only one in Europe, right? He's got 4 semi-final appearances and 2 finals in his tenure. 1 quarterfinals, a semi-finals, and 2 finals appearances in his tenure. But then you'd expect that coach by now would understand the mechanics of the team, would understand what they're going to go play, would be a little bit smoother in that thing, would have the balls enough to go, you know what, guys, Jude is not working out. Can you sit on the bench and start on the bench? I'll bring you on at a time where you can maybe affect the game. So when I listen to national team coaches tell me that, no, guys, I need a Calvin Phillips type of player. Firstly, you didn't pick him, but then secondly, in all of England, with all of the time that you have to go scout and watch matches, we see Hugo Bruce, watch matches, speak to other teams, do all of that stuff. You have all of that time, and when it came down to selection, you thought to yourself, okay, Trent is going to play midfield. Or if Trippier is going to play on the left-hand side, no matter what, Trippier, a right back, is going to be playing that side. I don't have anybody else. Should Shaw be injured? Should whoever be injured? I don't buy that for a national team. And I think we let them go with some of the stuff that we say when we're protecting them in this stuff. Now, I don't want to play down the job. It's a tough job to do. You have to balance media, fans, players. You've got diva players on the pitch. You've got guys that have done great things. Jude Bellingham is La Liga Player of the Season, in conversations for Ballon d'Or. Phil Foden is the EPL Player of the Season. Saka just came second in one of the best seasons Arsenal has had with Declan Rice. There's all of these players spread around there. Harry Kane is Harry Kane. We know what he is, right? So there is a tough job there, but at some point you have to look at the coach and say, Mara, my guy, you have to do something here. What's going on? But lastly, what I want to close with today is the unfortunate news that we got of Uprasten passing on. Uprasten, others know him as Skrima Shabalala. Prasten, to another generation, was instrumental in a lot of our football. One of the founding members of Kaizer Chiefs. Then went on to helm a national team when we were starting out with the national team and they needed somebody to step in and make sense of all of that. Then came Mamelodi Sundowns, where the Shushan in piano that Mamelodi Sundowns plays right now is in big part because of the influence of Uprasten, who then moved on to be at Paris for a very long time. So we have lost a legend of the game, a true legend of South African football. Very few people, as I believe it was Agent said, very few people have the track record, the history, the influence that Uprasten has had in our football. So, and it's also very sad that he passed on because of injuries sustained from him getting shot. It's not him naturally passing on or naturally going. It's because of that, which makes it a little bit a tougher pill to swallow. So condolences to the Shabalala family, condolences to a lot of our football families that are tied to, that have worked with him, that are tied to him as well. But more importantly, rest in peace to Uprasten, the legend. One of the people that we grew up watching and trying to learn from, and you hear the stories and you watch his show and all of that stuff. Someone who we could have learned a lot from. And as Agent said, we are starting to lose that old guard. Alex Shakwane also passed on. Now ke Prasten. So rest in peace to Prasten. Yeah, we'll see how that pans out going forward. Guys, I'm going to close the show. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for jumping in. We had some issues there at the beginning, but it is what it is. If you have not followed, please follow. If you want to watch any of these previous episodes, or this episode, or any of the previous episodes, they will be available on YouTube. Now that the Euros are ending, we're going to go back to our normal schedule. Monday to Thursday, 7 p.m., we're going to be here. We'll discuss bigger things. And then Fridays, like tomorrow, is going to be the members show. The members are part of the official WhatsApp group. There's a WhatsApp group where we speak football literally all day and go back and forth crazy. There's videos, there's voice notes. It's a great place to banter, to learn, to grow. We teach each other things. We show each other things that maybe we didn't know. That's actually where I saw now that Uprasten had passed on from that group. So if you want to be part of that WhatsApp group, you head on over to YouTube. So on my YouTube channel, the Overthinking Football Show, you have to subscribe. You have to click on join. In the members area is the link to the WhatsApp group. Then you can join there. And Fridays, the group chooses the topic. So topics are suggested, a vote happens, they choose the topic, it's 12:30 in the afternoon, then they run the show, they speak more than anything. It's a perk of being a member. Guys, please also support us who do this content stuff. Go share, like, comment, try as far as possible to support us content creators as well, because I can tell you that there aren't many places that have shows that are like this one. I also do my own content on the side to do with football. The last video I did was yesterday speaking about Coach Rulani's move to WeDad and a couple of things that we can look at from there. So please go check out that video as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to those that commented. Thank you to those that jumped in. Thank you to those watching on YouTube. I'll see you guys then tomorrow, 12:30 in the afternoon. Bye, guys.